"Cool," he said. "It's full of $2 bills." He was right. The bank was practically stuffed with $2 bills, folded into little triangle shapes with the 2 showing on the sides. "You guys, he's coming." Anna Marie sounded panicked. We pulled our heads apart and Colin shoved the rubber stopper back in. I was out front by the time Jimmy held the door open for the delivery guy, who had a stack of sodas loaded onto a hand truck. "Hey, lady," Jimmy called. "I need you. This is man's work." "Sorry." Colin came strolling out of the back in his apron. "Bathroom break." Anna Marie smiled at me while Colin and Jimmy were busy loading the soda into the big refrigerated case by the door. "You're nuts," she said. "You know that, right?" I could still feel the spot where Colin's head had pressed up against mine. "I know. It was kind of stupid." We walked back to school with Colin between us. He was zigzagging and bumping his shoulders against ours, saying, "Boing, 5 points. Boing, 10 points." And we laughed both like idiots. Things you push away. "Ready?" Richard asked Mom. We are practicing even more now. He sits in a chair opposite her. I'm the timekeeper. Mom closes her eyes, and I know that she is lifting a corner of her veil. She nods, and we begin. Mom says each of us has a veil between ourselves and the rest of the world, like a bride wears on her wedding day, except this kind of veil is invisible. We walk around happily with these invisible veils hanging down over our faces. The world is kind of blurry, and we like it that way. But sometimes our veils are pushed away for a few moments, like there's a wind blowing it from our faces, and when the veil lifts, we can see the world as it really is, just for those few seconds before it settles down again. We see all the beauty and cruelty and sadness and love, but mostly we are happy not to. Some people learn to lift the veil themselves, then they don't have to depend on the wind anymore. She doesn't mean that it's a real veil, and it isn't about magic or some idea that maybe God is looking right at you, or an angel is sitting next to you, or anything like that. Mom doesn't think in those ways. It's just her way of saying that most of the time people get distracted by little stuff and ignore the big stuff. To play in the winner's circle, Mom has to get herself in a certain frame of mind. She said it's sort of like lifting one little corner of her veil, enough to see more than usual, but not so much that she gets totally distracted by life, death, and the beauty of it all. She has to open her mind, she says, so that when the clues start coming in, she can see the thread that joins them. Of course, if her celebrity is dumb as a bag of hair, it's hopeless. I've thought a lot about those veils. I wonder if, every once in a while, someone is born without one. Someone who sees the big stuff all the time. Like maybe you. Things that you count. Right before Thanksgiving, Colin and Anna Marie were behind the counter weighing a slimy heap of sliced turkey into quarter-pound piles separated by pieces of waxed paper. Jimmy said they should do a whole week's worth. "Won't it go bad?" Anna Marie asked. "Nah, stuff's full of preservatives." Colin licked his lips and said, "Yum, yum. Chemical turkey." "Shut it," Jimmy said. For once, I was happy to be counting the rolls. Now that he had us, Jimmy seemed to have nothing to do. He sat on one of the stools bolted to the door in front of the big front window, and watched me with his arms crossed over his chest, his hands tucked under his yellow-stained armpits. He had already rejected my V-cut for the day. It was waiting for me on a tray behind Anne Marie, getting dry as usual. Luckily, Jimmy didn't limit our use of mayonnaise. "Looky," Jimmy said, pointing his chin toward the window. "There goes one of your little friends." On the other side of the street, Julia was walking alone, wearing her orange suede knapsack and orange suede headband that matched. Matching suede knapsacks and headbands were probably all the rage in Switzerland, I thought. "You mean Swiss Miss?" I grabbed the 2 rolls and dropped them into the bag at my feet. "She's not my friend, not even close." He smiled slowly. "Swiss Miss, that's a good one." He stared outside for another minute and then stood up. You're funny, you know that? I shrugged, still counting, but happy. A compliment from Jimmy was a rare thing. When I finished, I folded the top of the bag and lugged it to its spot behind the counter. Jimmy had disappeared into the back. Anna Marie was giggling at something Colin had said. Ever since our foreheads had touched, looking at Colin made me feel strange, but good strange, not creepy strange. 80, I called out to Jimmy, right on the nose. Better luck next time, he yelled back. Colin looked at me and grinned, causing my stomach to sort of float inside my body. He's dying for the bread order to come up short, you know. You should throw him a roll in the trash one day just to make him happy. Don't listen to him, Miranda, Anne Marie said. He's just trying to get you in trouble again. But while she was talking to me, she was looking at Colin, and her expression was funny, as if her stomach might be floating too. Messy things. Anna Marie and I stopped in the 4th floor bathroom before going back to class after lunch. She said she wanted to wash her hands again after all that turkey. Today was fun, she said, looking at herself in the mirror, combing her hair with her fingers. I wish we got more than 40 minutes for lunch. I hate counting bread, I said. It's boring. She laughed. At least your hands don't smell like chemical turkey. At least you get to goof around behind the counter with Colin, I thought. I'm always running to the store, cleaning up some gunk, or stuck talking to Mr. Yellowstains. Let's go, I said. I'm starving. Julia was standing right outside our classroom, almost as if she was waiting for us. Oh, no! She sighed deeply and pointed at Anna Marie's arm. Oh, Anna Marie, your turquoise sweater. It's your favorite. Poor you. And Mom thought I was dramatic. Anna Marie looked down at the hem of her sweater, which had some mustard on it. I had no idea it was her favorite. It'll come out, Anna Marie said. My dad'll get it out. Julia leaned against the wall, adjusted her headband. What I don't understand is why you're working at all. It's not like you need the money. Here she stopped to glance at me. And no offense, but that place is kind of disgusting. I saw a roach there once. I like it there, Anna Marie said. It's actually pretty fun. That guy who works there is gross. He's not gross, I said. And he doesn't, I made air quotes, work there. He owns the store. We don't get paid, Anna Marie said softly. It's just the sandwiches. And sodas, I said, waving my spirit. Right, Julia said, talking to just Anna Marie, as if I didn't exist. Like you're supposed to be eating sandwiches and drinking soda. Anna Marie's face folded up a little. It's fine. Fine, Julia said. Forget it. Mr. Tompkin came to the door. Why aren't you three inside? Silent reading period started 5 minutes ago. As we walked in behind Julia, I whispered to Anna Marie, no wonder you don't want to be friends with her anymore. She's so rude to you. For a second, Anna Marie didn't say anything. Then she mumbled, yeah, sometimes, and we separated to go to our desk. Mr. Tompkin had left a book on my desk. He was always trying to get me to read something new. This one had a picture of a spunky-looking girl on the cover and some buildings behind her. I pushed the spunky girl aside, pulled my book out of my desk, and opened it randomly to see where I would land. Meg was on the planet Kamizoto, where all these little boys are in front of their matching houses, bouncing their matching balls. All the balls hit the ground at exactly the same moment every time. Then all the boys turn at the same second and go back into their identical houses. Except for this one boy. He's outside all alone, and his ball rolls into the street, and then his mother comes out looking all nervous and carries him into the house. I was thinking about how much Mr. Tompkin would hate the idea of a place where all the houses look exactly the same when something stung me hard behind the ear. I jerked my head up and saw Julia laughing silently over her book. I looked down at the floor and saw the rubber band she had shot at me. At my head. I thought we were just irritating each other, but I was wrong. This was war. Invisible things. The next time I saw Marcus, I was absolutely sure he would remember me. I was in the main office because Mr. Tompkin had sent me down to pick up some mimeographs. "Why you kids need diagram of the water system is beyond me," Willie said as she handed them to me from her chair. "They're for Main Street," I told her. "We're trying to make working hydrants." "Well, that may be the silliest thing I've ever heard," she said, waving me away. I love the smell of new copies. Mom says I have an attraction to dangerous smells, her main example being the fact that I love to stand in a warm cloud of dry cleaner exhaust and take deep breaths. There is something very food but not food about the smell of dry cleaner exhaust. She always pulls me away and says that she's sure in 10 years we'll find out that it causes horrible diseases. I was walking back toward the stairs quietly, inhaling the smell of 32 freshly copied diagrams of the New York City water system when Marcus came out of the stairwell reading a book. "Hey," I said, but he walked right by me, past the main office, and around the corner to where the dentist office is. Back in class, I passed out the diagrams like Mr. Tompkin asked me to. I accidentally ripped Julia's before I gave it to her, and accidentally crumpled it a little too. Alice Evans was squirming in her chair like she was doing a hula dance. I rolled my eyes. No wonder she was the only sixth grader who had to bring an extra set of clothes to school. Things you need to hold on to. According to Jimmy, there's a $2 bill in circulation for every 12 $1 bills. But people hold on to them, he said while I was putting my jacket to go on to the store. The light bulb over the sink in the back room had burned out, and Jimmy didn't have extras. People think $2 bills are special. That's why you don't see them around very much. Yeah, I thought, people like you. But I kept my face blank because I wasn't supposed to know what was in his Fred Flintstone bank. They hate 'em over at the A&P, though. No space in the cash register for a $2 bill. They got to pull out the tray and store them underneath. And they always forget they're in there. That's why you have to ask for them. "Okay," I said, "I'll ask." Anna Marie was behind the counter with her apron on, looking happy. Some kids from school had come in, paying customers, and she was writing their names in mayonnaise on their sandwiches before pressing her perfect V-tops down onto them. Colin was next to her doing the same. Anna Marie gestured me over. I noticed that she was either very warm or she was wearing makeup. "I'm going to ask Jimmy if we can have meatballs for lunch," she whispered, "since it's Thanksgiving tomorrow." "Great," I said, even though I didn't find those meatballs any more appealing than my usual cheese sandwich. They just sat there in the pot day after day. "I'll be back in a minute," I told her. If anyone orders hot chocolate, tell them to wait for me." There were no $2 bills at the A&P, and when I got back to Jimmy's with the light bulbs, the kids were gone, and Julia herself was standing in front of the sandwich counter. Anna Marie and Colin had started making their lunches already. Jimmy said no, I guess, to the meatballs because they were picking through the cheese. Julia, who was pretending I hadn't just walked in, seemed to be in the middle of a long speech about how American cheese wasn't even real cheese, strictly speaking. I saw her long fingers gesturing towards the not cheese and knew instantly that her V-cut would be flawless, that by Monday she would be behind the counter with Anna Marie and Colin, and that her apron, the same kind of gray and baggy everyone else had, would somehow look perfect on her. She would have a way of tucking it in to fit, some trick a waiter in Paris might have taught her.